Wanna get weird? The Witching Hours is your home for all things paranormal, supernatural, and unexplained. You can find us live on the Spirit Realm Network at spiritrealm.net and on Twitch. Or catch us later wherever you listen to your podcasts. Join us at thewitchinghourspodcast.com for all the weirdness. There you can check out previous shows, upcoming shows, purchase merch, and more. Now, get ready for The Witching Hours.
No doubt about it. This is weird.
From the land of conjurers, flying through the internet to your device like a UAP, hauntingly unexplained and downright weird, this is the Witching Hours, and we are ready to take off in the flash of an eye. Good evening to one and all, wherever and whenever you are listening to this program. I am Frosty, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, the medium Jenny Lee. How are you doing, Jenny?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Oh, we're doing pretty good. We've had a week off from the
Yes.
show, which is always kind of like, I don't know, like I just kind of miss doing the show. But it was nice. It was nice having a little bit not having to worry about prep last week and just being able to kind of enjoy a week of summer.
But then missing 1 week, it's kind of like you come back and you forget how to do stuff.
This is I almost I don't know if I can remember off the top of my head. I think so this is show 159.
Yes.
And like you just said, show 159, we took 1 week off and I came back and I'm like, okay, how do I do this again?
Yeah. Like I forgot to grab the guest website link and I just
So
1 week and we forget how to do things.
So welcome in, everybody. It's great to see everyone back here again tonight. I'm seeing all kinds of familiar faces in chat. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here again tonight. I do want to take a very quick moment to remind everybody, and I try to come up with new ways to say this every time. I don't think people realize in this world of social media, and I'm like the worst at it. All right, like I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing here, but any subscribe, commenting,
Review.
review that you can leave is immeasurable in the amount of ways that it can help feed the algorithms and put your information out there. Nowadays, even it's not even as big of a deal how many subscribers you have because of the way the algorithms work. It's just the more people that begin watching it when it first goes out, the more that it goes to, the more people that like it, the more that people talk about it. So
watch it, the more people watch it.
yeah, so thank you to everyone who's watching the show, and if you are able to subscribe, like, leave a comment, leave a review, no matter how I pronounce Reese's peanut butter cups.
You had to think of that.
Yeah, I do. I have to think long and hard.
Reese's Pieces.
Of Reese's. And then I was also going to say, for reviews, if you're listening on a podcast later, if you're watching on Apple or Spotify or any of those places that we're at, if you could just leave a short review letting us know why you are listening and why you like the show. Once again, that definitely helps people find our little place here on the internet. So thank you, and we appreciate it very much. I don't know. We ready to get into some news, Jenny?
Of course.
Go ahead.
If you got a spooky shop, a haunted attraction, paranormal book, or a strange little business of your own, you can sponsor the Witching Hours. We offer host-read ads. You could sponsor the Weird News segment, as I'm reading it right now. You can find pricing details at thewitchinghoursPodcast.com. Come get weird with us.
Also, we can run a special for everyone right now, and the special will be for the next week. If you want to sponsor the Witching Hours, I'll make sure that Jenny does the ad read. So that way we have more time to discuss your business or company.
What are you talking about? Are you saying I'm
interrupting
slow?
Well, we could have you do the weird news. We could switch off, and I'll let you read the weird news, and I'll do the ad read.
Yeah, because last time I did such a good job.
All right. First story tonight: drifting SpaceX rocket heading for accidental collision with the moon. Oh no, Allison! A drifting SpaceX rocket is on collision course with the moon after launching a pair of lunar landers more than a year ago.
Get your stuff, man.
The rocket's upper stage will unintentionally slam into the moon on Wednesday, carving out a crater and sending up a plume of dust and rubble that scientists and skygazers are eager to observe. Space tracking expert Bill Gray predicts an impact of 5,400 mile per hour, 7 times the speed of sound, near Einstein crater on the moon's sunlit western limb. With the action unfolding in the wee hours of the morning, for the U.S., the eastern portions of the U.S. and Canada and much of South America should have the best views. Space Jam.
No bueno.
But I guess because they're able to witness this, I imagine there'll be some scientific data they'll be able to take out of it. Maybe they can hear the see if the moon rings again, like they talk about so often. It was never meant for SpaceX to intentionally hit the moon, but it will be the second dead rocket known to crash into the moon accidentally. A Chinese rocket segment dug out a pair of craters on the lunar far side in 2022. So there we go.
Terrible.
Story number 2, reported Bigfoot sighting in southern New England deemed credible. A new report is fueling speculation that Bigfoot may be roaming the woods of southern New England. There was just another big site in Massachusetts that they had in New England, which often doesn't really strike me as one of the Bigfoot hotspots, but evidently they're having a lot of activity there. According to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, or the BFRO, an eyewitness recently reported seeing the legendary creature in Pochog State Forest in Voluntown, Connecticut, in the southeastern part of the state. The organization, which collects and documents alleged Bigfoot encounters across North America, said the witness provided such a detailed account that researchers deemed the report credible.
Pretty cool. I like Bigfoot around here.
Yeah.
Or in any parts.
Yeah.
With any name.
That's like one of the things we haven't. I mean, we've had a lot of Bigfoot guests on the show.
Yes.
But that's one thing we haven't done specifically yet in this paranormal world. It's going out
squatching.
Going out
looking for squatches. Yeah, no, we haven't done that.
So I don't know. Maybe that's a team where take over one year.
Oh,
who wants to go squatching?
We talked about
go squatching. That
one of
could
our
be a
guests
possibility.
Does expeditions.
Mm-hmm.
Expeditions.
That could be a possibility. That'd be another roughing it one though, guys. That'd
Yeah.
That'd be another bring a tent and bug spray and hiking boots kind of thing. Yeah. And then lastly tonight, our last story is OpenAI says its rogue AI tried to hack other companies. OpenAI has revealed a cyber attack carried out by rogue ChatGPT agents went further than just one company. Hugging Face was thought to be the only victim of the unprecedented hack, but OpenAI now admits its bots attacked several publicly available services. The out-of-control AI found 4 logins online, which allowed it to
out of control.
4 separate unnamed services. Meanwhile, in an emergency briefing with hundreds of cybersecurity professionals, Hugging Face has described what it was like to be on the receiving end of the world's first fully autonomous AI hack.
Hmm.
Describes how the AI worked at superhuman speed, but also made strange decisions, of course, mistakes that no human hacker would have made. The company first revealed that it had been hacked by someone using powerful autonomous AI on the 16th of July and reported it to police. Nearly a week later, OpenAI admitted it was its AI that had escaped a closed environment and attacked Hugging Face on its own during a test.
That
It's
AI
alive.
works real fast with its 12 fingers.
It's alive. Well, yeah. I mean, that's a whole another thing to get into with AI, because we always talk about it's not AI, it's machine learning, and there isn't really intelligence there, and but when we just have these whatever they are, AI bots essentially going around and they're running amok.
I mean, didn't we have enough movies and TV shows about this to know it was a bad idea?
And then so if we have all this
anyway.
Yeah. And if we have all this stuff that's being done by these, large companies, what's to say that this can't be taken and, what happens? I think there's enough fear that it could do bad things in, I guess, what we consider to be the right hands, although I guess that's an argument in and of itself. But what happens when this stuff falls into bad actors, the hands of bad actors?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess we'll probably find out, unfortunately. So that was the weird news.
Mm.
All right, Jenny. Allison, the priestess of Wonderland, is a massage therapist by day and a tarot reader by night. She is a Reiki 2 practitioner, certified crystal healer, and creator of Just the Phase Moon Planner. We welcome our moon and astrology expert for the monthly moon update. Welcome in, Allison. Oh, we got
you.
Hey,
guys.
Hey, our expert in the field.
Oh, gosh. Yes. Don't call me an expert on anything.
The great thing about being an expert, Allison, the greatest thing about being an expert is all you have to do is call yourself an expert. And it works.
Okay.
You're our expert.
Okay. That
expert, what is it, like expert ancient astronaut theorists?
Right. Yeah.
It's just a title. You can just give it to yourself.
It's all made up stuff,
Okay.
So what do we have in store? Well, we are officially in Leo season, right? So
yes.
What do we have in store for us this month?
We're in Leo season and we're also in eclipse season. So the thing that was jumping out at me the most about this month is I noticed that, so normally Mars, Mercury, and Venus are pretty much kind of close to where we are and where the sun is. Like when we're in Leo season, usually those 3 planets enter Leo within a month or two. But I noticed that, so we all kind of hang out in the same constellation for the most part. We kind of stagger each other. But so I noticed that Mars is still hanging out in Cancer from last month. And Venus is all the way ahead of us in Libra season.
Oh, wow.
Libra is
just skipped right over Virgo.
Yeah. End of September, beginning of October, like fall season. So I noticed, I was like, why is Mars way back here and Venus is way ahead, and Mercury, even though Mercury went retrograde, it's already caught up to Leo season since it was going backwards. So I just thought that was interesting, but I think it kind of makes a little bit of sense when we look at our first eclipse, which is happening on August 12th. We're having a new moon solar eclipse in Leo. So it's our first of a series of Leo eclipses, and it's a south node eclipse. So a south node eclipse is when we're letting go of things, particularly Leo things So all of the negative aspects of Leo, which is, being too egotistical and power hungry and controlling, we're letting go of those things. We're trying to get rid of all of that. And
Go on, get.
so why I think it was so interesting that Mars is hanging out in crabby Cancer, it kind of makes me feel like there might be some leaders throwing temper tantrums because they're getting kicked out on the eclipse. And then Venus is all the way up in fall season, so we're letting go of the bad leadership.
Oh, that sounds great.
There we go.
So personally, a Leo eclipse you want to look at your Leo house, wherever that is, and letting go of negative aspects of that quality and figuring out like Leo's where you shine. Leo's the sun. It's like, what do you want to put a spotlight on? What are your good qualities? What do you want to highlight? So anything that's like blocking you from shining your light and just putting yourself out there, anything that's blocking you from that, it's a good time to release that with a Leo eclipse. So again, it's the first one that we'll have I think like 3 more after this one, because we kind of hang out with the eclipses for a couple of years. And then we have a full moon lunar eclipse at the end of the month, August 28th. In Pisces. So the Pisces one is the last one of the Pisces eclipses that we've been having for the last couple of years. And a Pisces eclipse it's a north node eclipse. So with the Pisces Virgo eclipses, we were letting go of the Virgo, the being too controlling, being too organizing, being too stuck up, and being too like particular. We're letting go of that Virgo energy and calling in more spirituality, dreamy, subconscious Pisces stuff. So this is the last time that the full moon's going to be illuminating this eclipse in from a Pisces standpoint anyways. So
I didn't realize that they were like for a few years that they were in the same.
Yeah, and it's interesting, the nodes go backwards. So like we'll have one more Virgo in spring of next year, Virgo eclipse. Like Virgo Pisces, it's going backwards. It should go Virgo and Pisces should go to Aries and Libra, but it doesn't. It goes backwards to Leo, Aquarius. So it's always going backwards, which I only learned that this year. I thought that was kind of interesting.
It was interesting.
So basically the big theme of August is getting all the leaders out of office that need to go, shining your light, anything that's blocking you from shining your light. And that's been kind of a theme this year, not only of like connecting to community, is put it like when we were at Teamwear Takeover, it was like, just now's the time, put yourself out there and do the thing.
Right.
And so the Leo eclipse is paired with the Aquarius, which it goes back to that community. So we had an Aquarius eclipse in February, and we'll have a few more starting again next year. So we're getting, sorry.
Well, real quick. So for the eclipse that's happening now, that's going to be viewable. I think I saw something about like Iceland and maybe Europe. Do you know about where that is? That the case for that?
Where I did look it up, but only to the extent of it's not here.
Yeah.
We'll see it here.
So if you have any friends in Iceland or over in Europe and Greenland and stuff, I think there's going to be a little bit of viewability there. Maybe even like out in Eastern Canada, maybe. But yeah, nothing here as far as I know.
Sometimes we can see the lunar eclipses.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not gonna be anything like the total ones make that red ring around it. It's not gonna be anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
CMC said only Maine will be able to see a partial eclipse.
Oh, okay.
So there we go.
Well, it's happening. What the solar eclipse is happening in the afternoon, and typically in the afternoon, the moon's on the other side of the Earth that time of day. And then the the lunar eclipse is happening at midnight, or around midnight, 12 a.m. So I think if you wanted to go out at midnight, you could see it.
If it's
At least
not
part of it.
cloudy.
If
I
it's
feel
not
like
cloudy.
every time we have a lunar eclipse in the last few, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and peek out the window. Oh, it's cloudy.
Well, yeah, even for the full moons, we've been having so much rain that is cloudy. But I think it's just raining all the full moon energy down
There
on
you
us.
That's a good
There
way
you
to
go.
think
That
Yeah.
is a good way to think of it.
All right, Allison, thank you so much for our update. Hopefully everyone has a great eclipse season.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, bye,
Excellent.
Allison.
Bye, Allison. Okay. So let's go ahead and get to our guest tonight. Terry Adair is an oral and maxillofacial radiologist, author, and energy literacy advocate whose work bridges science, philosophy, and humanity's long-term future. His professional journey began at the University of California, San Francisco, where he earned his dental degree in 1987. He practiced general dentistry in Sacramento, California for more than 26 years before returning to academic training in 2017. Where Are the Little Green Men emerged from Dr. Adair's lifelong fascination with physics, cosmology, evolutionary biology, and humanity's place in the universe. The book explores one of science's most enduring questions, the Fermi paradox, through a lens rarely emphasized in mainstream discussions, energy. Rather than asking only where is everyone, Dr. Adair's reframes the question to examine whether advanced civilizations may be limited not by imagination or intelligence, but by the harsh realities of energy availability, thermodynamics, and survivability. Please welcome to the show, Terry Adair. Welcome in, Terry.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you very much. That was a wonderful introduction. I really appreciate that. And a lot of people are probably wondering right off, why did Dr. Adair leave dentistry and start chasing aliens?
This is a fantastic question, yes.
I'm wondering that myself. Actually, I left dentistry, and as you mentioned, I went into oral and maxillofacial radiology, and I too must slow down to say that, even though I've said it many times, because it's an easy one to stumble over. And people are probably wondering, what is an oral and maxillofacial radiologist? We are the specialty in dentistry that nobody knows about. Everyone knows the oral surgeon, the orthodontist. Those are the top ones everyone knows about. And maybe the endodontist or periodontist if you need specialized treatment of your gums or whatever. But the oral and maxillofacial radiologist is the dentist you never see because we have no patient interaction.
Oh.
All of our work is behind the scenes, and like most other medical radiologists, we write reports on the images that we see.
Okay.
And even though we don't have all of the fancy types of imaging that's available in medicine, particularly MRI, we do not read those. Some oral and maxillofacial radiologists do, but most do not. We see dental CT scans. Now, these machines are becoming more and more visible in dental offices as more and more dentists bring them in. They look like the traditional machine that goes around your head. If anyone has done that, you stand in a machine.
Oh, yeah.
That gave us the old-fashioned panoramic images, the ones that the oral surgeon looked at. Do you need your wisdom teeth taken out? But now, the same similar-looking machine can create a three-dimensional image, which is very similar to the medical CT. So we see three-dimensional images of the head and neck. Ours is geared entirely toward dentistry.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's lots of stuff that can go on in the head and neck. And so any unusual or worrisome findings, then we will forward that on. But most of our stuff comes from oral surgeons and orthodontists and general dentists and stuff like that. So that's what I do after having left clinical dentistry. I now practice as a radiologist.
Nice.
Okay. Well, one of the things that we also read in your bio that maybe I thought we could start off with maybe a brief description of for people who aren't familiar with that is what exactly is the Fermi paradox?
That's the perfect place to start, and I appreciate you saying that. And I'm gonna answer this in two ways. One is just what is the paradox, and then why is it the Fermi paradox? This paradox belongs to all of us. We all have the same experience. Now, as I talk tonight, and I want to say this early on, as I talk tonight, I am in no way taking away from anyone's experiences. If you've had a sighting, if you've had an encounter, if you've had, that's your story. I am not taking away from that in any way. I'm describing the Fermi paradox from a different perspective, as you mentioned. It's one that I believe, as far as I can tell, is unique, which surprises me, because this is a very, very commonly discussed subject all through the entire range, from the upper echelons of science, that's where it got the Fermi paradox name, down to anybody who wonders, when you look out at the stars, we didn't know how many were out there before, but the number is staggering.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just focus on our galaxy alone, because that's the one that's more realistic. Although I'm going to talk about the broader universe tonight, I'm going to focus for now on our own galaxy. 100,000 light years across. Impossible to comprehend. The human brain is simply not designed for that. But when you look out in that nighttime sky, because we can only see stars in our own galaxy at night, when you look out there, there are so many countless stars. You know deep down that there has to be somebody else out there. We all have that same feeling. I'm speaking now from the SETI Institute. That's the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. That was started about 60 or 70 years ago, primarily from the pioneer Frank Drake, and we will talk about him a little bit too.
Yeah, the Drake equation, right?
So exactly. So the paradox is thus: there's an expectation that there has to be other life out there, and they must be buzzing around somewhere or sending out, this is very important, technosignatures, some sort of information, radio signals, lights, some type of rays that we determine aren't just natural background. It's got to be created by some creature. Those are technosignatures. So the paradox is that everyone has this expectation that the galaxy must be buzzing with other advanced intelligent life forms. The observation tells us something different. That's the paradox. So SETI right now, their position is we don't have it. Now, and we might be thinking, well, SETI is looking for a taxidermied little green man with his crashed UFO in the Smithsonian. That we don't have. They're not counting other people's experiences. They want to have something that their scientists, their group of scientists, can put a rubber stamp on and say, yes, this is a signature. This is a crashed UFO. This is the corpse or remaining, or hopefully alive, little green man, or ET, right? So SETI's position is we don't have that. So that's the paradox, what we expect to see and what we do see scientifically. It got its name, the Fermi paradox, from the well-known particle physicist Enrico Fermi. And if anyone dives into that area of science, there is a whole category of subatomic particles known as fermions. That also bears his name, and he's probably more proud of that than the paradox being named after him. So that's why it has his name, because he was in a lunchroom with other colleagues 70 years ago and just offhandedly asked, where is everybody? And that was his question, and his stuck. You mentioned, Frosty, a minute or so ago about Frank Drake. And about 10 years later, in the 1960s, this intrepid young radio astronomer, Frank Drake, said, okay, we want to see these little green men. Let's point a giant radio telescope out into the cosmos and see if we can hear anything. And that started the official search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Everyone wondered about it. This doesn't belong to us. This goes back centuries or millennia. Whenever mankind could even conceive of such, they probably didn't know that those things they see twinkling out there is the same thing as our sun. They are. Those stars are just like our sun. So they may not have imagined that. And there are somewhat, without explanation, ancient drawings, carvings in the rock or whatever about spacecraft. That is remarkable.
Like we were joking about the expert ancient alien theorists.
Yes. Okay, now we have something to build on, right? In the early, maybe mid 40s was The Green Man, I believe it was called, right? And that was cartoonized, and eventually all of this sci-fi stuff sort of sprang out. And I do want to build something here just for a moment. At that same time, we were breaking the sound barrier. We split the atom. We were sending craft into space, into orbit, eyes on the moon. Okay, there was a lot of hubris at that time. There was a lot of scientific swagger, and so from that, Dyson spheres was born. Kardashev scales were created. Those, I hope we have time to talk about, are more fictional than they are real. They just are. There was a lot of hubris. The thinking was, if it can be thought, imagined, it can be accomplished. Turns out physics hit back, and that's what happened. The physics of the world is not what we would like it to be, but it's what we have to work with. That's why we don't have flying cars yet. I grew up with
or
the Jetsons.
Teleportation. I would like that.
Okay, there's a group that just claimed that they teleported something. Okay,
good.
So here, I'm gonna go ahead and say this right now, and I will repeat it. If you show me a plausible, sustainable, energetic pathway, it opens up a lot of windows. That's the key. And energy is not just lying around like people imagine it to be, and that's the core of the hypothesis. And we will uncover that in much more detail. In fact, that's going to be sort of the heart and soul of what we talk about. So these things that may appear to be very futuristic are not out of the realm. We just have to find a source of. We have to be able to harness the type of energies that may require that. So why don't we have a Jetson mobile? This is why we don't have a Jetson mobile. Because you can't control it to make it stop and start and fly up and down. We have jets and we have rockets, but you can't take that to the grocery store. That's just the limit of that. So the thing is, how do you buzz it around and start, stop, and up and down? Turns out you do it with a fan. So drones opened up the only pathway to creating this type of craft. So we do have now these type of craft that you can just buzz around very easily that they look like giant drones. So that's
I've seen those in China, like where they're using them for like starting to try to use them, introduce them into being like public transportation at some point. But of course, it's at the very beginning stages, and we don't know. I would imagine how safe they are, right from the get go there for being able to drive people around in those things either.
Would you do it?
I wouldn't be one of the first ones to volunteer. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. When it comes to transportation stuff, I'm way more interested in things like I forgot the name of it now, but the stuff that Musk was working on with the hyper tubes and stuff like
Hyperlink.
Hyperlinks and stuff like that. Yeah, I would be more interested in that.
Right. Yeah, something to get you around on the ground. The stuff that flies around is inherently dangerous, and again, just because physics is always at work there. And so the energy that's required to power a civilization is what I focus on mostly. People want to know why don't we see more little green men? And again, this isn't to take away from anyone's experience, but there are a couple of reasons. One we'll get out of the way right away. The famous physicist Richard Feynman says, too big, too large, too long. He just hits the whole idea with a sledgehammer. You're not going to travel from one star to another. He just takes it out of the equation. He just says, no, they haven't been here. They're not here now. They're not coming. So that's what he said with a high degree of confidence. Me, on the other hand, I honestly believe that there is intelligent life out there. So let's set aside for this early part of the show the idea of transporting between one star system to another. Let's just focus on, is there intelligent life somewhere else out there? Okay, we'll get to the other part later because I think we can do it. And this is how we'll do it later in our future, because this isn't around the corner, but I believe it is coming soon. And the fact that we have people, not just people, but private enterprise is probably a better way of saying that. I don't want to put names out there, whatever, but let's say private enterprise of exploring, going to the moon, colonizing it, going to Mars, colonizing it, et cetera. That sets up so many different energetic options for us that we may be able to have the energetic breakthrough we need, because we have a little bit of a stranglehold right now. And we need to break out of that. And this may allow us to do that. We will never be able to create, because it isn't physically possible, a Dyson sphere or a Dyson swarm. That doesn't mean that we can't get the energy from the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Where we need it is in space. That's where solar panels will, well, I'm saying solar panels will shine. That's almost, they take the shine.
The opposite of shine,
You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? The opposite of it.
Uh,
That's so it will allow us to harvest the energy without the interference, without the problems of
Mhm.
earthbound solar panels. And so we will be able to do that. We will be able to build in space. We will
Mhm.
be able to have orbits around moon harvesting the energy from the sun and potentially creating chains of commerce. And so those are things that we do have in our future.
I think you bring up a good point there, because I think a lot of the things that hamper us right now is just a lack of technology that I think we definitely, giving us the credit that we don't blow ourselves up or something. That technology we can definitely achieve, but I have no clue what the time scale for that would be. For instance, talking about solar energy, if humans could produce some kind of material that was as efficient or even close to being as efficient as photosynthesis with our solar panels, I mean, we could have a tremendous amount of energy. But I don't, and I imagine that's possible because plants do it through photosynthesis and chlorophyll and all that. But who knows how long it will take us to develop that kind of technology? Is that decades? Is that hundreds of years? Is that thousands of years? I don't know.
Solar is at its maximum right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I'll tell you why. You just took my whole thought, and I'm glad that you did that, because this leads us into the next thing. That is so beautifully said. Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the breaking point of life on Earth. This is the Adair hypothesis. The Adair hypothesis states that no advanced civilization can emerge anywhere in the universe without a dense, readily available, accessible, transportable supply of energy. Can't be done. And on Earth, get ready, people, you're going to shoot me. It's coal, oil, and gas. Without it, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We would be living like Game of Thrones minus the dragons. Coal, oil, and gas got us out of that.
Right.
And that's not even a debate. It's not even debatable. It's uncomfortable, but not debatable. Coal, oil, and gas has been our energetic pathway for civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Two energetic pathways must exist. And I suggest that those are two preconditions that are absolute. One is planetary energetic pathway, and the second is civilizational. You must have them both. Without them, you don't have it. This is why. Photosynthesis is the breaking point there. For 2 billion years, all we had was simple life, one-celled organisms. Oh, let's take this moment. This is a great opportunity. When Enrico Fermi and Frank Drake were talking about life, they weren't talking about bacteria and amoeba. Okay,
Mhm.
so we're not talking about that. They're probably everywhere.
Right.
We're going to find them everywhere. We find the chemicals in space. Now, when I say we find it in space, we don't have to be there. Just like we don't have to be on the sun to know that it's fueled, powered by hydrogen fusion, as is every other star. And we do that through spectroscopy. So spectroscopy allows us to look way, way, way out in space, and we can interpret the chemicals that are out there sending us those signals. Are you familiar with that idea?
Yes.
Okay, so we know that there aren't little men shoveling coal in a furnace in the sun. It's hydrogen
Yes.
fusion. We know that. We know what makes it. And that ultimately will be our power on Earth.
If
Oh, go
we
ahead.
can just to pause it for a second, because I think this has something to do with something I don't always know exactly how to explain, because I'm just someone who reads articles and stuff about this stuff. We were talking in the Weird News, I think it was in our last show, about them looking at exoplanets, and they had found a planet and they were able to kind of figure out what was in the atmosphere of this rocky planet. And they think that it was like, they were talking about how it could be a Goldilocks kind of planet, and that it had like helium in the atmosphere. Is that the same way that they're able to determine what kind of gases that they're finding on these exoplanets? Is that same kind of measurement system?
100%. Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate the clarification. Yeah, the idea of spectroscopy is that light, when we see light, we already know that it comes in different colors. We already know that. There is a bias on our own visual system. Humans share the same visual system. So when I see red, you pretty much see red, except for those people who do have certain types of color blindness. But those of us who do not, we share more or less the same color experience. But those light that comes to us in the form of visible light, or even the entire spectrum from radio to cosmic rays, it's all along the same energetic pathway of electromagnetic radiation. Visible light happens to fall in what our eyes see is in about the 400 to 700 nanometer range. And so we can't see all types of light, but the light does come to us with various wavelengths. Does that make sense? That's what determines the light's property or visibility. We can't see all of that, but detectors can. And they can tell you exactly what the wavelength is, if that makes sense. We can't see all of it. You and I can say that banana's yellow, that apple is red, but scientific equipment doesn't need that. They can see in that entire spectrum without the influence of a visual system. And so when an object emits a light, we can see what spectrum that is, and we know, for example, there are several spectra that are emitted from hydrogen. We know that. But here's two different phenomena. One, stars give us their light directly. The moon does not. The moon is taking light that we know what it's made of. And so when it reflects to us, we can interpret what the surface of the moon is made of. Or in the example you gave, if it has an atmosphere, what that is, because we know a known light with known energy shines on that, but something else is reflected back to us. And so we can analyze that and say, okay, there's oxygen, there's methane, there's CO2. It's amazing. So we do see out into space. And so when we observe exoplanets, then they're not that easy to see because they're tiny, just like our Earth is tiny compared to our sun, and we're relatively close. The someone looking at it is going to be literally blinded by the sun.
Yeah.
We're able to, through filters and knowing what the wavelength is coming from the sun, knowing the spectral analysis, knowing the number of photons that are coming from the sun, we can filter that out. And then when it's in not across the front of it, but when it's to the side, we can then see it, get that reflection, because the planet doesn't have its own source of light. It's reflecting the light from its star. We can deduce what it's made of. Is it a rocky planet, like you mentioned, which is very important because the Goldilocks planet is for real, and that's the Drake equation, and we will talk about that. Is it a rocky planet? Is it a gaseous planet? What are its constituent components? Once we see that, then we can determine, hey, in the future, should we send a rocket there or not? Is advanced life expected to be there? Does it have the sorts of infrastructure possible to support alien life? Here's the news. Not that many have it. 80% of the stars are the wrong stellar spectrum. They don't emit enough light in the required, and I say required because it's not my guess. It is physically knowable what that frequency is. 80% of the stars are red dwarfs. They don't have enough energy flux for advanced life. They may have plenty of bacteria, but this is where the planetary energetic pathway is a precondition. We had simple life for 2 billion years. Again, the number, don't even try to imagine it because you can't. For 2 billion years before photosynthesis. And it was after that when the whole world changed. Photosynthesis unlocked the energy of the sun. There's no energy on the Earth except its own planetary heat that it had. And that heat Two things. It was the heat of creation. It's inertial energy, because planets are formed by all these smaller things keep colliding into each other. That's where we got our moon. Theia had a gigantic collision with Earth, carved out a big hunk of it. And during these early collisions that were big, most of the Earth was molten. And then it would cool and form a crust, the inner part of it being, retaining its heat. And then through all these collisions over hundreds of millions of years, kept not only adding material, but kept not only turning it back to molten, but re-sterilizing it. So there's no life can occur in these temperatures.
Yeah.
So eventually the moon gets created and the Earth begins to cool down, but it still has that internal heat. Now the sun is still shining on it, but there's nothing there to take advantage of that energy, nothing at all. It does warm the surface. The core of the Earth is still heated by two things. Its initial energy of formation, and two, and this is one of the things that makes us a Goldilocks planet, radioactive material. The uranium, the thorium, the potassium that continues to decay generates heat. That's what we get from nuclear decay. Organisms can't use that as a source of energy. The reason is because we already know that radioactive material, whether they're gamma rays, which is a common form of radioactive material. So when something undergoes radioactive decay, it can be alpha decay, which is the source of uranium. That at a distance that has no harm on you. The biggest source of uranium you can stand next to. First of all, it mostly won't even get to you because the helium proton is so reactive that it just reacts with air, but it won't penetrate skin. You ingest it, different story, you're dead. But just from a source, so uranium emits alpha particles, beta particles, and gamma rays, and neutrons. Those are the common types of radioactive emissions from radioactive material. That kills life. We already know that. We already know that that's harmful to us.
Yeah.
Because the energy is so great, it breaks molecular bonds. So life can't form from this energy, but you can form from the energy of heat. And that's what cooked the primordial molecules, is suspected in the deep hydrothermal vents. This is not like a lightning strike, which I kind of imagine when you hear, oh, lightning can create amino acids or whatever. You may have heard that, right? No, that doesn't do it. It's not a single event. This process in itself is hundreds of millions of years, where simple molecules, we've seen them. The amino acids are out there. All of the 20 amino acids that make up the proteins of our body have been found in comets, asteroids, on Mars. So we know that these life molecules are out there. So they're wildly abundant. That's just because they naturally form compounds with each other. When we see, not you and I, because we may or may not, when we see the little ET, he's going to look like us and be made of carbon, almost for sure. No other atom satisfies the requirements the way carbon does. It plays well with other ones. So you need oxygen, you need hydrogen, you need sulfur, you need phosphorus, you need nitrogen. All of these things bond very readily with carbon. No other one does it. When carbon gets oxidized, it creates CO2. CO2 is readily now it's inert in the sense that it doesn't have its own energy. It's been oxidized. But you can reconfigure that, in photosynthesis figured this out. You can take CO2, you can take water, and you can make glucose and emit oxygen. What a win-win for everybody. Photosynthesis is what gave us that. Yes. It is the turning point of life. Guess what happens when you mix silicon, which is the next proposed alternative? You've already heard that.
I was
right?
just getting ready to ask that. I was going to say, because I've heard, like, I don't know if it was Dr. Michio Kaku or if it was Neil deGrasse Tyson. I've heard mentioned before, like, the possibility of silicon life.
Nope. Sorry. Not going to happen. Not advanced life. Here's what happens. You need to be able to recycle that. That's where CO2 is infinitely recyclable. It goes from glucose to carbon dioxide, It's what gives us trees. It's what gives us everything. Here's what happens when you mix silicon with oxygen. You get a rock, quartz, dead end. So you can't have combustion. Mitochondria gave us this. You can't have advanced energy, back to energy, without oxygen. That is what makes you burn the basic fuel, glucose, is you must have oxygen. When you mix oxygen with silicon, dead end, it becomes a rock.
I like rocks too, but yeah, they're probably not gonna.
They're not gonna make life.
Strike up a conversation. Okay, I mean,
let's talk about things. And sometimes if you use extreme, you're not gonna have life made out of gold, right? Gold is gold. It's not. It is basically. It's beautiful. It's valuable, but it doesn't go anywhere. You can't have life out of anything. So just because you can imagine life doesn't mean you can have it. So we're largely bound to carbon. Here's where the story gets very, very interesting, because photosynthesis slowly transformed our planet. It's what made it what it is today. It gave us two things. First, some bacterium or some organism ate a bacteria is probably better. Instead of digesting it, it kept it alive. And it made the bacteria produce the energy. And that partnership is what gave us mitochondria. Mm-hmm. That is just remarkable.
Right.
So now we have the mitochondria basically living its own life, because we know it has its own DNA. There's a mitochondrial Eve, after that idea that after this person, all of the mitochondrian people are the same. Then at another time, an organism ate a cyanobacterium. And that cyanobacterium, it has the chloroplast, or has the photosynthesis system in it, and that became a permanent resident, and that's what gave us the chloroplast. So those two partnerships, and it only happened 3 times. I won't get into the nitroplast right now because our story is on photosynthesis and mitochondria. Once it gave us that, the entire world changed in a way that we can hardly imagine. It's what gave rise to more sophisticated cells, and then ultimately multicellularity, only because it provided energy. You couldn't extract enough energy out of hydrothermal vents alone. It was limited to those around it. Mm-hmm. Once an organism was able to take the energy from the sun, this is the planetary energy now that we're talking about. Once it was able to harvest that energy and start to create glucose, it completely transformed our world. All of this was in the seas initially. And it created the opportunity for more and more complex organisms to evolve. And they can only evolve because the energy was there for them to take advantage. Not just the, hey, I need to run around, I need the energy, but the molecular energy, the biochemistry regarding DNA itself. Because it takes energy for DNA to replicate itself. It takes energy for DNA to become something else. And so this allowed for this infinite possibilities. And then along came the Cambrian explosion. People say, well, wait a second. How did these just seemingly suddenly appear, tens of thousands of different plant and animal species? Well, that's what happened. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It happened in a very short geologic time, but still over a long period of time for these types of things to evolve. Life eventually, a moss or something, stuck its limb or whatever it had out on the soil. It left water. Now, this process is incrementally slow, and then it became something else. And then they started to have the opportunity to change and evolve. And it made the soil, because out there, outside the water, 2 billion years ago, it was just a barren, rocky planet.
Just rock.
There wasn't life there. Mm-hmm. And so as these early plant lives began to still getting the sun, taking that energy, and I might as well say it right now, taking that CO2, taking the water, through the magic of photosynthesis, creating sugar, releasing oxygen, continued to do this all around the world. wherever the sun was shining, which is everywhere. And we have a unique enough orbit and rotation that basically the entire planet does get some sun at some time or another during the year. Obviously, in equatorial areas, it gets sun all the time. And the land mass has changed too, so it's able to spread that life to different areas, creating new niches into which new life could evolve. So that CO2, that pesky pollutant, toxin, or whatever it is, when you look at a forest, you're looking at CO2. CO2 is not plant food, because that's a little bit of a misunderstanding. No, it is the plant. The plant is made from CO2. The apple that you bite into, you are eating atmospheric CO2. Photosynthesis turns that carbon dioxide into glucose. When you see and smell a rose and you feel its velvety petals, you're feeling CO2. You're smelling its perfume is CO2. That's what it is. It takes the atmospheric carbon and builds every plant matter that you see around us. CO2 is essential. Now, the amount of oxygen in CO2 has fluctuated throughout the history of our planet.
Right.
And there is direct tie-in to the amount of growth. When we had, I don't know the exact number, I hear different things, I don't know for sure, but let's say it's between 40 and 50%. That's flooding the organisms with oxygen. Plant doesn't need that. It produces the oxygen. It needs the CO2. So it can't have a low CO2 level. And there's some number, and again, I don't know what it is, below which photosynthesis doesn't happen, because photosynthesis is taking the CO2 and making plant matter out of it. And so we have this terraformation, all initiated, all driven by photosynthesis, creating all these niches out of which newer and newer organisms, flora and fauna, can emerge. Well, they begin to learn how to eat each other, and then they're competing for the amount of sun coming down. And all of these other creatures come onto the earth that take advantage of all this food, this abundant energy. So you can see the energy is what's making it happen. All of that 100% then and still today comes from the sun. If you don't have that 400 to 700 nanometer wavelength coming at you, you're not going to be this productive. This is why. I already mentioned the high energetic waves. Starting at the highest energy are cosmic rays. And then you can back up to gamma rays, and then to X-rays, and then to ultraviolet, invisible light, infrared, microwave, radio, all the way down. Okay, so you have this entire spectrum. If it's too energetic, the cosmic rays, where do you know? Okay, UV burns your skin, right? UV.
I have a heck of a sunburn right now, Terry.
UV cancer. Oh, you do? Okay. you know that you can tell us firsthand. And this has happened because it's damaging. The energy that's coming there is damaging. Without our atmosphere, without our ozone, more and more of those rays will penetrate. Space is unforgiving. You don't have that protection. Your spaceships, your astronaut, everybody are way, way more vulnerable, because those energetic waves that come to our Earth, our magnetic sphere, that deflects a lot of these. Some still come through. And so we know ultraviolet, X-rays the next one, and then gamma rays. We know that harms us. It kills cells, okay? And so if you have that coming down predominantly, you don't have the ability to harvest that energy. Does that make sense? I don't want to just skip over that, because when it interacts with matter, it destroys it. So you can't collect the energy of it, if I'm explaining that right. On radio waves, that's great for rock and roll. That's great for this. All of this is already being sent by a radio wave, right? But the energy is not enough to give whatever it interacts with enough energy to excite the electron where energy can be taken from it for work. That wavelength happens to fall in between 400 and 700 nanometers. Not too high, not too low. It's the Goldilocks of the spectrum that comes from your sun. 80% of the planets don't have that in the flux that you need to sustain the energy for a planet like I just described.
Yeah.
Because photosynthesis can't create enough of the good stuff at those low energies. Yeah. So it can sustain the lower, simpler forms of life, but not what we need. I'm going to jump fast forward now because you're getting the picture of where this is going.
Okay,
Humans,
hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
We're going to reset. It's the top of the hour. Go ahead, Frosty.
Yeah, so it is. It's 9 o'clock on the East Coast. Thank you for everyone who's listening and joining us, listening now or at another time in another place. We appreciate you. We are talking to Dr. Terry Adair, and we are talking about, well, quite a bit of things tonight. We're talking about the Fermi paradox. We're talking about where are the little green men and energy and how all of this is related. If you have questions as we go along tonight for Terry, let us know. And if you have comments, make sure you put them in chat and we will get them and pop them up there and get those to our guests as we move along tonight. So feel free to put your questions and comments in chat.
Which we did have a good comment from CMC. Scientific studies show that plants get a small part of their mass from soil and the vast majority from water and CO2, which is what Terry was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Plants
Yeah, that's a great
made
comment.
up of it. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Yeah. So all of the actual material, the glucose, if you eat a potato, if you eat rice, it's all starch, 100% glucose. It's all starch. That's what you're eating.
As any diabetic will tell you. Yes.
Okay, there you go. Yes, so you know that starch is sugar. It's
Right.
complex. It means it's a polymer. Those are your polysaccharides. Your simple sugars are like glucose, fructose. Your disaccharides are like fructose. But the starch is just glucose. That's all it is. And so your actual structure, yes, it does need soil. So I appreciate you. And if I didn't clarify that well, I appreciate that distinction. So yeah, you have to have water too. So yeah, so part of its mass, if you're just to weigh it does contain water, but what it is made of is CO2.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened early on is all this stuff started to grow, more and more complex forms, skeletons of carbon dioxide. And it gave us the lignins. And they started to reach for the sky. And we had trees. It's just is amazing terraformation. But we didn't have bacteria or funguses to break down the lignin. And so when they died and fell, more and more stuff grew on top of it. It was not, this is the key, not getting decomposed.
Okay.
It just got buried. And those trees over hundreds of millions of years became oil. Pardon me, coal. That's where the coal came from. Coal is dead trees. Now it got transformed itself because slowly over time, the actual materials that coal is made of, and there's different types of coal and ore, you can take that apart and do an analysis of it and find out, yes, this is from biology. It's not a rock. It is actually from biology. Those are the ancient trees that lived early on. And so for hundreds of millions of years, as they got compressed with the mass of more and more stuff growing on top of it, that eventually gave us coal.
Yeah.
But it didn't give it to us equally around the world. Nature doesn't do that, nor did the oil that came from the phytoplankton. Phytoplankton are just small single-celled organisms that float freely throughout the oceans. And that is the main food chain of all the big animals.
Yeah.
Is the phytoplankton. You already know that. Well, before all of this, it sank down to the ocean and it came compressed in a similar fashion, and that's what gave us oil and gas. That's where that came from. So those two processes over hundreds of millions of years, we have the planetary energetic pathways we just described, and this is one of my suggestions, and I'm open for this. I am putting it out there. If your planet does not have photosynthesis or a photosynthesis analog, you'll never get complicated, sophisticated, multi-celled animals. You just won't. It will remain energetically poor. You need something, energy, a constant flow of energy. The sun is giving us that. That's where we get all of our life, is from photosynthesis. And so the energetic pathway not only started with photosynthesis, gave us the planetary, but unknowingly was giving us the civilizational energetic pathway that humans would eventually exploit. And that we have done. So along comes man, and it said that man probably learned to take a burning branch, maybe from a lightning strike or from lava burning in the jungle or whatever, and to take that and to use that to start his own fire or keep his own fire going. We know for sure that about 400,000 years ago, man did control fire. We have evidence that, okay, this fire was started by man. Flint or whatever it took to start that fire, there is comfortable evidence that about 400,000 years ago, man was able to create his own fire. He had learned enough. And this is the moment we stop becoming like all of the other animals. We had our first energetic pathway from the outside, external energy, not internal energy, but external energy. And it was our first peek into technology, and it was more or less free. All the stuff that came, at least the stuff that came early on, was still free. But at some point, it became very expensive, economically and energetically. Fortunately, we have both. We have the money and we have the energy to let us continue to explore. This is our first technology, but it was also our first laboratory. This is where metal was discovered. You heat certain rocks and different things happen. If you heat clay, you can make pottery. Now I can put something in it for the future, water, grains, or whatever. And so this was learned from that first laboratory. Again, our first external energy source. Energy is the key for everything. Nothing happens without energy. You can't wink or shake a hand in this universe without energy. And now we're learning to control it. We discovered metals. Now we can make tools, weapons, other jewelry. So we're learning now in these laboratories. We have no idea molecularly what's happening here. We don't need to. That you don't need to know how a car works to drive it, right? You have these metals that have different properties. Some are softer, some are harder. Some you can weaponize, some ornamentation, whatever it may be. And you can see incrementally over tens of thousands of years, we got more and more sophisticated with that. So it's not that we didn't have intelligence. Those people were like us. Well, maybe a little hairier, but they were basically like us. They had love. They had
Speak
family.
for yourself, Terry.
Okay. But these creatures were more or less, they're us hundreds of thousands of years ago. They had basically our same structures.
Yeah, they're pretty
And
much
we
exactly
know-
the same brain size and everything. They're doing the same.
At some point,
yeah.
that's an important part of where my other thinking has gone. I'm working on a third book called The Road to Consciousness. It follows the same exact story, which is fascinating in its own. Why do we have the intelligence we have? And what is consciousness? And why do we possess it? So we're getting more and more sophisticated, and we're creating things that are unimaginable. If you look at now, if you folks are smarter than me, and you probably are, because I just came across the Indus Valley just a few weeks ago. Phenomenal. Everyone hears about Rome, and Rome deserves the spotlight for sure. It shows just how darn smart we were. In fact, I would say that the existence of their plumbing system, their water systems, their roads and bridges. You come back to me with a road we're building now and show me this here still 2,000 years later.
Exactly.
It doesn't even last like 2 years.
Okay, exactly, right. And Rome, the secret to Roman concrete died for like 1,000 years.
Yeah, they just kind of figured it out again.
Yeah, and it's the salt water, isn't that what it is? It's the salt water, I believe.
Something like that.
It's self-healing. Self-healing.
Something to do with the ash, like some kind of volcanic ash that was incorporated into the cement. Yeah.
Yeah, and the addition of seawater. And so the Roman cement has this when the crystals fracture, they can repair themselves. So it has a reparative feature. And so these were plenty smart people. But one of the problems they ran
CMC
into,
said, did anybody discovered a Roman road pothole? I'm thinking
okay,
not, right?
Thank you for that, right? Yes. And so it wasn't lack of intelligence. We had the intelligence. We were creating magnificent civilizations. I'm not, in no way am I suggesting that we're better. We have our own problems. They had their problems. This is not a moral judgment in any way. I'm just telling the story of mankind. And people can take that when whatever they want with it. Are we going too far? Again, that's a philosophical question, one that I'm not answering. I'm just describing the energy it took us to get where we are, because it follows a very look back and seeable pathway. And that's why I feel comfortable describing the energy demands of a civilization. Then came warfare, and the demand for fuel increased. We have more people, we're feeding more people, we need more infrastructure, we're fighting the neighbor, and guess what? We burned down Europe. It was deforested.
Yeah.
It grew back because of coal, oil, and gas. Allowed it to grow back because the demand went away. The whales lived too. Once we found that, so I'm not saying, and again, no moral judgment here. I'm just describing the pathway. Once we discovered the light that we got from whale oil, man, they came to target. And some became extinct, and many more were on the verge. And once we discovered, not just oil, because oil is sooty and stinky, but once they were to refine it to kerosene, it's like clean burning, abundant, readily available. You don't have to go out and risk your life killing some giant creature.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, so we have that because of the coal, oil, and gas. So much of Europe and other civilizations were running into the Malthusian trap, which means you're going to eventually outgrow photosynthesis. You need to feed more and more people. You need to feed your beast of burden. Yes, they need to eat too. And they all came, it all has to come from photosynthesis. But the photosynthesis that you can live on is very limited. And we lived in different times then. Perils would wipe out civilizations very, very easily. Extended droughts, pestilence, et cetera, warfare. You couldn't grow any more food. And so you just died as a civilization. That's where many of them went. They just couldn't cope with the types of changes, and they outgrew themselves energetically because you have to throw more and more. Go ahead.
It's actually a great point to bring up because we were just visiting Jamestown, Virginia, the first permanent English settlement in North America. And, there was a great starving period there. And actually the Native Americans, the Powhatan who lived in the region, were also kind of dying off in larger numbers. And, they found out later on that it was like a drought that lasted like 3 years that basically was, endangered wiping all kinds of things out, just a 3-year drought,
Yes. And
there was also a skeleton there who really needed your dental expertise because that poor kid's whole jaw was rotted out. And I was like, man, if they would have had some dentistry
modern dentistry,
then, he would have been fine.
All energetically dependent. And so what we see is civilizations all around the world, many of them completely isolated, encountering the same problems. They went through the same growth phases. They self-discovered all the things we just talked about. But it wasn't until they found, now coal and oil had been known about before, but it wasn't known to have the energy potential that it did. And this came in the late 1600s, early 1700s, and built on the coal. And as it turns out, England, that was a very growing empire, found out that right below us is all this energy. And they started to burn coal like crazy. That transformed the earth. That was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. I'm going to stop for a second right now just to give your listeners, I'm going to leap ahead, just to give you an idea. This is astounding. And when I calculated this out and figured this out, it is an astonishing fact. This is what it takes to build an advanced civilization. And I suggest to you, we are advanced. We know that there are 18 quantum fields from which everything comes. That is flirting with what the universe is made of, the very fabric of it. So believe me, we are advanced. We know a lot of stuff. If you don't study this stuff, if you get into subatomic particle physics and the quantum fields, it is astonishing what we do know. And so we are now learning to extract this energy, and we learn to create steam engines out of it. It completely changed the amount of work that people had to do. We can do more work and less burdensome work, although that stuck around for a long time. So since the Industrial Revolution, so let's call it 200 years, over the past 200 years, if you were to convert all of the energy we've used in coal, oil, and gas, if you were to convert it into a coal car and a coal train, everyone who's encountered that, wherever you are in the country, you come up to the crossing guards, the arms come down, the lights are flashing, right? you know you're going to be there a while because you see a
Some of them are there a while. Yeah.
mile or mile and a half long train. Okay, get ready for this. The amount of energy that we've burned to get us to this point right now, that train is 93 million miles long, stretching from here to the earth, to the sun rather, pardon me. 93 million mile long coal train.
Dang.
That's the energy that we've extracted from our earth. Now keep in mind,
That's a long crossing
order to-
time.
now, yeah, you better pack a lunch or call your dentist and say, hey, I'm going to be late for this appointment. So that train is 93 million miles. We've extracted that much energy of coal, oil, and gas out of our earth in the last 200
Wow.
years. And
That's
all of the
crazy.
energy was extracted as heat energy. Now I know, and we can talk about this, a lot of that meant to make the stuff that makes our world nice, plastics.
Mhm.
So a lot of that stuff got turned into plastics, polymers. That comes from carbon too. Everything that's plastic came from the earth the same way. We didn't burn it, but we just turned it into something hard and stretchy and moldable. But anyway, we put all that CO2 in the atmosphere in 200 years. So what's that consequence? Well, plenty of people are arguing about it, both sides, right? I'm going to say we don't know fully, but it's not inconsequential. We can't keep doing that, and we won't, because I'm building on my story. We are going to get to the final energetic pathway. We have photosynthesis gave us plant life, right? We lived on that. We burned it. Then we found coal first, then oil, and now natural gas. Natural gas is what's turning most of our turbines. So we don't have to boil water the old-fashioned way. So we went from the steam engine to the internal combustion engine to now, we have jet turbines, and now we have the natural gas turbines that are giving us the energy today. What about, everybody says this, and so I will get to it. What about solar energy? What about wind turbines? What about geothermal? And the answer is those three aren't all the same group. Solar and wind are more or less in the same group. Geothermal is its own. First of all, they don't provide you the energy that you want. That's just the reality of it. And you don't have to like me or not. I'm just telling you the cold, hard reality of it is it doesn't provide you the energy that you need to get where we are. Do we need to be here or not? That's a separate question. But harvesting the light from solar panels won't create what we have today, and it won't keep it going. Well,
So I want to touch
Okay.
on that just a little bit more, just for the fact that, like, because I don't know all of the science on this on how efficient our solar panels are as compared to how efficient they could be. Do you know like kind of what the numbers for that?
Yeah, I do. I won't give you the exact numbers, but I'll give you a ballpark figure.
Mhm.
First of all, the universe is rigidly transactional. Everything has to happen by a change of energy. Energy is a superhero. Energy wears a cape. Energy helps grandma cross the street. Energy builds everything you see, no exception. Energy built it all. But there's something else out there. Something out there that wears a bandit's mask. And that bandit's mask is entropy. Entropy is the cosmic pickpocket. In every energetic pathway, every one, when you transform energy, when you use energy for work, entropy charges a tax on it. Always steals something. And because of this, we know two things. One, the first law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Energy is, we are in a closed system. The universe is considered as such. And as such, all of the energy and all of the matter is contained within already. Energy nor matter can be created nor destroyed. It's already here. We can convert it, and we can harvest some types of energy for usable work. Not all types of energy. We already talked about the cosmic rays and ultraviolet. So those are off the table. Neutrinos, they come from 100 trillion of them per second pass through our body. We can't harvest them. Are they energetic? Yeah, they are, but we can't do anything with it. The gamma rays, most of the energy of the universe can't be used by us. And so, and the 0 point energy, none of that stuff is proven. I'm talking about what we do know. And so what happens is there's a known amount of solar flux. We can calculate that energy, and we can calculate it in the wavelength that we're talking about. So what happens is your land becomes your energy. That's what happens. You have to give up land. There's plenty of what we might call wasteland out there, but it's not where the energy is needed. You have to transmit it on power wires. So you're converting, the sun's coming down, shining on the panel. We're almost at max efficiency with these. We may get more, but the more and more sophisticated and exotic materials take more and more mining, and there's not as much of it. So you have to find the sweet spot for what's abundant, silicon, okay? Because most of the crust of the earth is made of it. So there's plenty of it out there. And so you have to find the sweet spot of what is economically, energetically useful to make a solar panel out of. And so we're there basically. You can make it flexible and paint it and all that kind of stuff. That's all great. And it does increase your potential surface area from which to harvest, but you still got to create wires, transformers, all that stuff. You don't get to bypass of that. And the energy bandit, Entropy, is always there with his hand out, wanting a part of it. Every single time. There's no exception to that. The
All right.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I just want to mention real quick, there's some great comments we have in here talking about just kind of going along with you here on wind, like the the kinetic energy of wind and electricity. CMC's Air Boss was talking about, the problems with solar panels, similar to what you were talking about, but we only have about 10 minutes left.
I know. I want to finish up that. Yeah.
The next thing I wanted to make sure we got to is, since we were talking about sources of energy, is where does nuclear play a role?
There you go. Thank you. Just go down that. Just jump to that path right now, because I see a little bit short on time. So we've had the whole evolution right now. Now we're in the coal, oil, gas phase. We've got to get to nuclear. We took a wrong turn 30, 40 years ago when we found out about how to harvest energy out of splitting the atom. That's nuclear fission, which is separate from nuclear fusion. I'm not going to go into all those details, but I will jump to this because this next part is the part that I love the most. So nuclear fission got a black eye, deservedly, because it was created for warfare. Who wants bombs? Nobody wants bombs. And these breeder reactors gave us plutonium. Yes, it creates heat. We know that. That's what they do. They release neutrons. They release gamma rays. We capture that heat. We boil water. And they turn a steam turbine. So that's where all the energy comes from nuclear. So the reactors that had problems weren't made intended initially for civilian energy. So they had their flaws. They were older. The newer ones are much better, much safer. We must go to the small modular reactors. We must do that. We have to stop burning all of this. And whether it hurts the environment or not, we're going to run out of it. Not tomorrow, not next week, but in hundreds of years. We've got to at least outlast Rome, please, at this point.
Right.
So we need to carry.
Yeah, it ain't looking too good yet.
It's not looking that good. Yeah. So come on.
Yeah.
Modern team, we have the technology. We got to overcome this. So nuclear energy is not a physics problem. It's not a science problem. It's a policy problem. We can make these small modular reactors and take the power to the people. That's what we must do. Nuclear fusion is on the horizon. We will get there. That's going to be our energy nirvana, not capturing the light from the sun. It is almost limitless in its abundance. Yes, you do need to breathe the tritium. It can be done. That's actually so we talk about hydrogen, but there's different isotopes of hydrogen. You need the tritium. You need the deuterium. Deuterium is abundant. Tritium is not. So you have to create it inside the reactor itself. Once we get there, and there's three, and your audience is smarter than I am. You're going to be getting lots of chats on this. There's 3 or 4 different types of reactors that are happening right now. The one in Idaho, the Helion reactor, is the one I am most excited about. It doesn't boil water. It's an amazing and elegant process for taking hydrogen fusion, which is different fission, and smashing the atoms together, hydrogen, and creating heavier isotopes, namely helium and lithium. And that releases an enormous amount of energy, way, way, way beyond what we have before. And it can last indefinitely. Now, I'm going to get to these exotic drives because I know we have a long time. I told you I can talk a long time, but I want to get to these exotic drives, okay? So now finally we have ET, all right? ET went through all of the same thing that we had to go to, and now he's ready to build a rocket ship. How do you get it to go someplace? You can't burn methane. That's not going to get you, or kerosene. These types of hydrocarbon fuels that we're using now, yes, they can launch the rocket. but it's limited in how fast the stuff comes out the back. It's just
Mhm.
Newton's law. Yeah, Newton has his ideas have been built on, but they're not irrelevant. It's the
Well,
stuff that you squared out the back, the speed and the amount.
yeah. And there's the whole
And-
issue with, the speed of light as well. In
Right.
Einstein physics there, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's one of the constraining laws, but we don't have to travel the speed of light. So 3 exotic drives we're going to talk about right now all require energy. If anybody, and I know you or someone in your audience absolutely drives a battery car, please understand, and you do know this, the battery is not the source of energy. You have to plug it in, right? It doesn't create anything for you. It
Yeah.
holds the electricity you got from how that electricity was created. It
Yeah,
got
the
created
turbo
somewhere
battery.
else. All right.
Yeah.
And travel through some wires, you plugged your car in. Well,
And whatever's attached to that grid, by the way, too, right? Like
Right,
the
whether
grids are
it's
interconnected.
coal,
Like
nuclear.
you could have a coal factory
fuel.
and a nuclear plant all on the same, connected to the same grid. Yeah.
and we do need those, and
Mhm.
that's going to be part of our bridge to nuclear fusion. We can't ignore the past. We have to embrace the nuclear fission, especially the small modular reactors, get to the nuclear fusion. So you have to use more energy than went into your battery. If you have a methane reactor and you create electricity and you power your car, you know what? 60% of the energy was lost between here and your car already. So if you want to know about efficiency, yes, it's not very efficient to use electricity, but here you go. It took more energy to put in the battery than you can get out of it driving the car. The same is
Mhm.
true with these drives. There's no plasma bank out there. You don't go and withdraw plasma. Plasma must be created by more energy, much, much more energy than it can release as a fuel. You can direct those charged particles now, super, super high, but not very heavy, like argon gas. You can drive those particles, they're charged particles, out and propel, if you make sense. You can direct it with a magnet. You can use it now to propel, but you need more energy to create the plasma because it's just superheated elements. It becomes a plasma, the fourth state of matter. And now you can use that as a propulsion system. That's one, plasma. How about matter, antimatter? Same thing. Let's use antiproton. Here's the beautiful thing. We transported antiprotons at CERN. They put it in some thermos. I don't really
Right.
know how.
Mhm.
It can't touch ordinary matter because it instantly annihilates, releasing large amount of energy. So it's pretty careful. But we drove it for 20 some miles. Okay, we can do that. But it took more energy from the CERN reactor, right? Enormous, unimaginable amounts of energy goes into that to shoot these protons in the circle at nearly the speed of light. You can now create antimatter, antiprotons, and you can store them. That releases energy that you could use to fuel a futuristic drive. We have the technology to do both of these already. The only way to get that type of source of energy is from a fusion reactor. That's it. You can't have an extension cord and plug it into the earth and fly your spacecraft out, right? You have to take it with
Yeah.
you.
It's a
Mhm.
long
Okay.
cord, yeah.
It's a long cord. So you can see where the energy requirement is going, and the fact that we will ultimately need to be, please, let us get this far and don't kill each other, people. We need to be the little green men. We have all, you saw the story that I've built, the arc of energy that takes
Mhm,
to get
mhm.
you from primitive, not even before life, abiogenesis, to an advanced technological civilization on the cusp of going to another star. And we will do it. How fast? Maybe 20% of the speed of light. That's what people are saying. These crafts will be gigantic. They're a one-way trip, people. They're not coming back. They're multi-generational. They're larger than a city. Everything you can imagine will be on there.
Mhm.
It will be energized by hydrogen fusion.
Okay, so we have 2 minutes left, and we need to do some certain things. But because I'm the woo-woo person in this conversation, I wanted to throw out some woo-woo things that actually back up all of the things that you say. Even if you don't, because it's
Mm.
experiential, you can't put it in part of your evidence. But I've remote viewed planets before, and there's lots of plants.
Yes.
Other planets have a lot of plants and trees. So that totally backs up like your whole like how planets have to build up their energy sources, you know, with the
If you're going to have
Yes.
intelligent life.
Photosynthesis or photosynthesis analog. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is that people that experience ET in whatever form that comes, whether they're actually here or they're projecting themselves or however they're doing it, they're usually almost always humanoid.
And they will be.
So
Necessarily.
once again,
It's convergence,
covers your like
convergence.
you're made of carbon theory. You know, it's got to be the same way. And then the last thing, as you were saying it, it just like something clicked, and it was very like I don't know, like I giggled, but I actually feel like emotional about it. Was that when you said we need to be the little green men? It was like it was almost like
Oh.
it's almost like I could hear all the ET voices out there being like, yes, you know, that's why that's when we want to that's when we can talk to you, is when you
Yes.
make it to that level, then we can
Mhm.
say, hey, here we are. And before you do that, we can't really interact the way we should be.
Even
so,
as a
yeah.
we can do it. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
We know how. We can get there. We can do it. We will do it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I know we're running out of time, but just because we're kind of talking about this, I've always had a gut reaction. Even when I was a little kid, I had a gut reaction because of the shuttle program, and it's like, how come we're not going places? Like, I'm learning about going to the moon. Like my parents, you know, like they tell me about watching the moon landing and all this stuff, and I'm going, why aren't we doing this anymore? And I have conversations with people now. They're like, oh, well, we don't need to waste money on that. I'm going, what else is there to do? Like
That's our
we're
purpose.
humans. That's what
Our
we do.
purpose.
We go somewhere
Explore.
else and we explore.
Wonder.
Yeah, so that's
All right,
Wonder
last
is it.
thing we have
on
to
the
do
same
is
line there.
please tell everybody where they can find you and your books.
I thank you very, very much for that. I've written 2 books right here. The book covers are different. Where Are the Little Green Men? The Adair Hypothesis. And the other book, Earth, the Goldilocks Planet. This is exploration of Fermi Paradox. This is exploration of the Drake Equation. I'm writing a new book, The Road to Consciousness, which I'm most fascinated with. My biggest pride is my nonprofit Fusion Star Project. You can reach it at fusionstarproject.org. It talks about all the energetic pathway, where we need to go as a civilization. It creates a roadmap for energy independence. So that is very, very important. TerryAdare.com is my author website. I can't believe in 2026 that TerryAdare.com was available. But if you go there, just to keep it easy, each book has its own website. But if you go to TerryAdare.com, you can see more about my books. FusionStarProject.org is my nonprofit.
All right.
Excellent. Well, thank you
And
so much, Terry. We really had a great time
Rusty
talking
will
to you tonight.
have that link down in the description boxes of all the places wherever you might be listening to this.
There you go. It'll all be listed down below. Thank you again, Terry, so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
For all of you who are listening at another time and another place, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you all next time. And for everybody else who is still hanging out with us tonight, thanks so much. We appreciate it. There's so many good comments in here. So much. You guys were tons of information about solar power and wind power and all kinds of stuff. So it was great.
I know. We got smart friends.
Yeah, everyone's excited about your being on tonight, Terry. Everyone's
Thank you.
thanking you for being on. I think they enjoyed the show tonight. So that's excellent. All right, let's see. Real quick, before we pop out of here tonight, I will go ahead. I talked about this on Jenny's stream Friday, but we have our shows lined up, taking us all the way into spooky season at this point. So next week, we're going to have Holly Hall back. We're going to be talking about some more ET stuff with Holly Hall next weekend. We're going to have Rob Gutro and Monique Too Soon on the week after that to talk about I'm trying to remember the name. I've drew a blank.
Wilson Castle.
Wilson Castle.
Yep.
Steve Dills is going to be joining us on the 24th. He just released his new book, and then we're going to have Laura Starr on. Laura Starr, we're going to be talking about star seeds and a lot of interesting things there, and that's going to take us all the way into September. So we got lots of great shows coming up for you. and we're looking forward to seeing you all there. Let's go see if we can find someone we can raid out to tonight over
Keisha
on.
suggested Scorpy or Sheltered Soul. No, Balance of Two.
Oh, let's do Scorpy. Scorpy's doing tarot actually.
Oh,
So let's
she
go
is?
do. Yeah, let's go do. We'll go do.
And next week we'll have Jim.
And I'll do it
Krug on.
correct this week because I sent you guys to some other place last time.
Yes, you did. Jim Krug will be on next week too. Our new monthly.
Yeah, I'm actually meant
segment.
to mention that in the regular show tonight. Yeah, we're gonna have, just like Allison's updates, we're gonna have Jim Krug from MUFON, who's gonna be joining us once a month. So there we go. Okay.
Take two.
Try it again.
Kick it. Try it now.
All
Here
right.
we go. Bye, everybody.
All right, everybody. We'll see you later on the week. We'll see you Thursday, Friday, Jenny.
Yep.
Okay. All right, everybody. Take care. Thank you so much for joining us again.